I'm Clayton, 37, project manager, football guy, grill guy, regular guy. At least I thought I was until that Tuesday. Started like any other weeknight. I was standing on the back porch grilling chicken thighs, bone-in, because Morgan always said they had more flavor. The sun was just starting to dip behind the fence, casting that kind of glow that makes you feel like things are all right, even if they're not. I had a cold beer sweating in my hand, earbuds in, half listening to a podcast, half daydreaming about catching the second half of the game after dinner. Inside, Morgan was getting ready. She had a work party to go to, something her department threw every couple months, apparently casual but always requiring the kind of effort that felt extra. She was pacing around upstairs, heels clicking against the hardwood. I watched her through the sliding door as she came down, radiant in that way she always was before a night out. Slim black pants, a silky maroon top that dipped just a little lower than she'd normally wear. Lip gloss, new perfume, something spicy and bold I didn't recognize. "Does this look okay?" she asked, turning in front of the mirror by the entryway. "Not too much." She adjusted one earring, looking over her shoulder at me with this look, half flirty, half nervous, like she wanted me to say she looked incredible but also needed the reassurance. I played it cool, gave her a smile and said, "Nah, you look great." But something inside me shifted. Not jealousy, not suspicion, just a shift, like a quiet flicker of wind that makes a candle stutter. She was moving fast, checking her phone, tossing lipstick into her purse, sipping from a water bottle, rechecking her reflection. Then, with the same casual tone you might ask someone to pass the remote, she said, "Hey, can you grab my car keys out of my purse? I think they're in the front pocket." "Sure," I said, and that's when it all started to unravel. I reached into the purse, feeling around for her keys, when this envelope slipped out. Heavy, textured paper. Classy, like the kind you get with wedding invites or retirement gifts. It hit the tile floor with a soft whump. I bent down to grab it, not thinking anything of it, until I read the label. La Vida Retreat. Mountain Seclusion Package. Redeemed. Saturday, 3 days ago. I stared at it like it might explain itself. Like maybe it wasn't what it looked like, but it looked exactly like what it said. A couple spa retreat. Not just any retreat either. La Vida wasn't cheap. Morgan and I had talked about going there once, but we never pulled the trigger. Too expensive, we said. Too indulgent. But someone had pulled the trigger. 3 days ago. Saturday. And I remembered that Saturday clearly. Morgan had texted me in the morning saying she had back-to-back meetings and might have to stay late to prepare for a client pitch. I didn't question it. I spent the day at my buddy Jesse's house helping him fix his deck. Morgan got home around 9:30, said she was exhausted, and passed out before I finished brushing my teeth. Now I was standing in our entryway holding proof that she'd been somewhere else. I didn't want to assume. I didn't want to be that guy, the suspicious husband rifling through his wife's things, jumping to conclusions, turning into a cliché. But I'd be lying if I said my pulse didn't spike. I walked back toward the stairs, envelope in hand. "Hey, what's this?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Morgan came halfway down the stairs, glanced at the paper, and then, nothing. No surprise, no panic. Just this casual shrug. "Oh, that?" she said, slipping an earring into place. "That was with Lauren. She got a discount code from her cousin. They only sell it as a couples thing. Marketing gimmick." She smiled like that explained everything. "With Lauren," I repeated. "Yeah," she said breezily. "I thought I told you. We did facials and this outdoor hot tub thing. It was freezing, but nice." She didn't look away, didn't flinch. And for a moment I almost believed her. Almost. But then she turned back toward the mirror and checked her lipstick again. Like nothing had happened. Like this wasn't a moment that was quietly burning itself into the walls of my brain. The rest of the evening was a blur. I flipped the chicken. We ate in silence. Just the usual dinner conversation. Her work party, my inbox, some vague plan to visit her parents next month. I nodded and smiled in the right places, but I wasn't hearing a word. The spa certificate kept flashing in my mind like a neon sign I couldn't switch off. That night, after she left, I sat on the couch staring at the blank television screen. My phone was in my hand, but I wasn't scrolling. I wasn't even thinking clearly, just sitting, replaying everything. The perfume, the new outfit, the marketing gimmick. I kept telling myself there had to be a reasonable explanation. I even texted Lauren, just a friendly, "Hey, hope you're doing good. Morgan said you guys hit La Vida last weekend? Was it worth the hype?" Message read. No reply. Not that night. Not the next day. That's when the crack started to widen. For the rest of the week, I couldn't shake it. Every little thing started to stand out. Morgan humming while making breakfast, something she used to do when we were first dating. Her phone buzzing and staying face down. The way she'd leave the room to take calls. But I'm getting ahead of myself. That night, I still wanted to believe her. I chose to believe her. Because the truth didn't just hurt. It changed everything. And I wasn't ready for everything to change. Not yet. I didn't confront Morgan, not really. Not in the way people do in movies, where someone flips a table and demands the truth. No, what I did was worse. I swallowed it, smiled through it, pretended it didn't bother me while it ate away at me from the inside out. Started small. Just questions really floating in the back of my mind like gnats you keep trying to swat away but never quite catch. Little things I might have missed before, like how Morgan suddenly started coming home later than usual. Meetings ran long, she'd say, slipping out of her heels by the front door. Sometimes, she didn't even offer an excuse. Just walked in, kissed my cheek absently, and disappeared into the bedroom to change. Her phone was always on silent now. Not just quiet silent. Buzzes instead of rings. Face down on the kitchen island. Sometimes she'd pick it up mid-conversation, glance at the screen, and then quietly slide it into her back pocket, her smile dimming just slightly before she changed the subject. I didn't want to believe it. I told myself not to jump to conclusions, that maybe work really was picking up, that maybe she and Lauren had been closer lately, that maybe I was just imagining it. But then I noticed something that I couldn't ignore. She started humming again. Morgan used to hum all the time when we first started dating, these little melodies she'd pick up from commercials or the radio. It was one of the things I loved about her. She'd dance barefoot in the kitchen with a spatula in hand, laughing at herself while cooking pasta or baking cookies from a boxed mix. But after a few years of marriage, that part of her faded. Stress, routines, life. It chipped away at the light in her. Now, out of nowhere, it was back. The humming, the giggling to herself while she folded laundry, the glow in her skin that had nothing to do with moisturizer. Only this time, I knew it wasn't because of me. Every kiss started to feel distant, like she was going through the motions. Her lips would touch mine, soft and sweet, but they didn't linger. They didn't mean anything. They felt like they belonged to someone else, and maybe they did. Still, I said nothing. What do you even say? Hey, you kissed me like your heart was somewhere else. Mind elaborating. Yeah. That'd go well. The moment it really shifted was over breakfast. She was cutting up a grapefruit, that same annoying pink knife she always used, when she said it. Lauren and I are thinking about doing a little girl's getaway this weekend, she said casually. There's this cabin near the mountains. Just us. You cool with that? I looked up from my coffee. The mountains? She nodded, popping a slice of grapefruit in her mouth. Yeah, somewhere quiet. We both need a break. I thought it'd be nice. I stared at her for a beat too long. Yeah, I said finally, forcing a smile. Of course. Sounds nice. But inside I wasn't calm. I wasn't cool. I was already planning my next move. After she left for work, I sat on the couch, phone in hand, and did what I never thought I'd do. I opened her Instagram account. Not mine, hers. She never logged out of it on the iPad. Just said it was easier that way. I'd never really cared. But now I cared. No messages. Nothing in the inbox. But that didn't surprise me. She was too smart for that. No tagged photos either. Just the usual curated sh*ts, coffee cups, sunsets, a smiling selfie with Lauren from 2 weeks ago. But then I checked the tagged stories. That's where people slip up. There were a few, one from a coworker, one from a local boutique. Then one from a name I didn't recognize. Private account. Bio was just a fire emoji and a mountain icon. The profile pic showed some guy holding a snowboard, half his face hidden under reflective goggles. I clicked the tag. Weekend vibes. It was a photo of a cabin porch with string lights, 2 glasses of wine on the railing, and a woman's shadow in the corner. A familiar outline. Morgan's. I stared at it for a long time. My fingers hovered over the screen like they wanted to crush it. That was 3 weeks ago. She never told me about that trip. I didn't ask. I didn't rage. I didn't even mention it. Instead, I started watching. Closely. She packed light for the girls' trip. But she spent nearly an hour trying on outfits before settling on one. Black jeans, a fitted sweater, and boots I hadn't seen before. She wore that same perfume again, the one she never wore for me. I offered to help her carry her bag to the car, and she let me, smiling like nothing was wrong. Like we weren't both pretending. Have fun, I said as she got behind the wheel. I will, she said, leaning out to kiss me quickly. Love you. And then she drove away. I stood in the driveway long after she was gone, staring at the spot where her car had been. That night I didn't sleep. I poured a glass of bourbon, sat on the porch, and let the silence settle in. The grill cover flapped in the wind. One of the chairs rocked gently, and the air was still. Somewhere in the distance, my wife was with someone else. And the worst part? I wasn't even angry. Not yet. I was waiting to see what would happen next. It was Saturday evening, and the house was too quiet. I wasn't expecting her to text. She said the cabin didn't have much signal, and even if it did, I didn't want another forced miss you message while she was sipping wine next to someone else. I knew better now. There was a time I'd scroll through our old texts for comfort. Now I couldn't even look at her contact name without feeling like I'd been hit in the chest. Around 9 p.m., I opened Instagram. Not hers this time, just mine. Out of habit more than anything. I wasn't looking for proof. I already had that deep down. But sometimes you don't realize how much you need confirmation until it slaps you in the face. There it was. A story from Haley, Morgan's old coworker. The two of them hadn't spoken much lately, so I almost didn't recognize the name. But the photo made me stop mid-swipe. It was a boomerang. A group of people raising glasses in front of a fire pit. Laughter. Music in the background. String lights overhead. It looked like a small party, nothing fancy, but warm. Cozy. *mate. Then came the next slide. And that's when everything dropped out from under me. Morgan. Despite the absence of overt *Zul scenes, descriptions of posture and bodily *Macy may be perceived as overly *mate, especially in video content with visualization. May be perceived as provocative or explicitly *Zulized. I didn't know the guy, but I knew that body language. I'd lived it. I stared at that screen so long the video looped 5 times before I realized I hadn't blinked. I didn't text her. I didn't call Haley. I just closed the app and sat back on the couch, letting the room go silent again. Somewhere, just a few hours away, the person I married was curled up against another man like I didn't exist. The worst part wasn't the cheating. It was how easily it seemed to come to her. How natural. Like she'd done it before. Like she'd been living in that version of herself longer than I realized. I remember staring out the window, watching our neighbor's wind chimes swing in the breeze. I thought about how you spend years building something, brick by brick, morning by morning, and it takes 1 second, one careless moment to tear it all down. The truth wasn't subtle anymore. It wasn't hiding between perfume notes or late-night excuses. It was right there on full display for whoever wanted to see. The woman I loved, my wife, was gone. And she didn't even know it yet. That night I didn't sleep. I laid on top of the covers, fully dressed, staring at the ceiling with the story playing in my head on repeat. The flicker of firelight on her skin, her laugh, the way she looked safe in someone else's arms. I wasn't angry, not yet, just cold, and done. By sunrise, I already knew what I had to do. I didn't wait for her to come home. By noon the next day, I had already packed a backpack, just the basics. A few clothes, my laptop, chargers, and a small notebook where I used to jot down dumb project ideas for work. I left the wedding ring on the nightstand, right next to her favorite lavender candle. No note, no big final statement, just a quiet message in absence. She'd come back and know. I walked out of the house we built together, locking the door behind me like I was just running out for groceries. But I wasn't. I wasn't coming back. My truck took me west, toward Mason Ridge, where an old friend of mine, Eli, had a trailer parked on his family's land. I called him once, just said, "Mind if I stay a while?" He didn't ask questions. He just said, "It's unlocked." The drive took 3 hours, and the entire way I kept expecting my phone to buzz. But it didn't. And when I pulled off the highway onto the long gravel road that led into the woods, I turned the phone off completely. I wanted silence. No explanations. No fights. The trailer was small, just one of those beat-up metal ones with an awning hanging on by rust and stubbornness. But it was quiet. Trees wrapped around the clearing like a blanket. And for the first time in what felt like months, I could breathe. I made a fire outside. Sat in an old camping chair with a bottle of cheap bourbon I picked up from a gas station along the way. Let the wind press against my skin and carry away whatever grief hadn't solidified yet. The sky turned dark fast. The kind of dark that swallows you whole when you're not near city lights. And for a second, I thought about her walking into the house, calling my name, seeing the ring. Would she cry? Would she be angry? Would she even understand what she lost? I hoped so, but I didn't bet on it. 2 days passed before I turned my phone back on. When I did, it was like opening floodgates. 12 missed calls from her. 3 from my sister. 1 from my mom. Morgan had called everyone she could think of. Friends, family, even a coworker of mine who barely knew her. The messages varied. Voicemail 1, "Clayton, please. Just call me. I'm home, and I don't know where you are. Please." Voicemail 3, "Okay, you made your point, but this isn't fair. You don't get to just disappear." Voicemail 6, "You're being cruel. This is cruel. I didn't do anything wrong. You're imagining things. You always do this." Voicemail 9, quiet crying, "Please, I messed up. Just talk to me. I miss you." And then a text from my sister. "Haley called. Morgan's panicking, says you're missing." I didn't reply. That week, something strange happened. Morgan deleted all her photos off Instagram. Every single one. Even the ones of us from years ago, road trips, holidays, birthdays. She didn't just archive them. She wiped them. Then I heard through a mutual friend that she missed work 2 days in a row. Showed up once, left early, didn't say a word to anyone. But the real twist? Her mountain guy vanished too. Not literally, but suddenly, like he ghosted. Gone from socials. No tags, no posts. The friend who had posted that story? Unfollowed. Blocked. It was like someone turned the lights off on that whole chapter. The same day I learned that, I got a call from a law office downtown. "Mr. Langston," the assistant said, "your wife has been trying to locate you. She's asked us to make contact." "I already filed," I said. There was a pause on the other end. "Oh, I see. Well, she'd like to meet. In person." Of course she did. We met at my attorney's office. Neutral ground. Morgan walked in late, looking wrecked. Eyes swollen. Hair tied back in a messy bun. Sleeves pulled over her hands like she was shrinking into herself. She didn't sit right away. Just stood there, staring at me like I was a ghost. "Why?" she whispered. I handed her the papers. She didn't take them at first. She just stared at them like they were radioactive. Then something broke in her face. Something sharp and ugly. "You ruined everything," she hissed. "You and your paranoia." I didn't say a word. Then, almost like a switch flipped, she dropped into the chair, legs folding like wet paper, and her voice softened. "I made a mistake," she said, barely audible. "You were all I had. I didn't mean for it to go that far." I still didn't speak. There are moments when silence is louder than screaming. When saying nothing is the final blow. She started calling me at night again after that. voicemails layered with different versions of herself. Some angry, some begging, some sounding like the Morgan I used to know. It's not what it looks like. You're being unfair. I can't sleep. I can't eat. I see you in everything. I listened to one or two. Then I stopped. She showed up outside the trailer once, soaked from the rain, standing by my truck, holding her ring in her hand like it was some kind of key. But I didn't open the door. She stayed for an hour. Then she left. And just like that, I realized I didn't need an apology. I didn't even need closure. I needed distance. Time passed. More than I expected. Days blurred into weeks. I stayed in Mason Ridge longer than I planned. Worked remotely, drank too much diner coffee, and sat on the porch every morning reading half a novel and ignoring every single call that came from her. And slowly, the silence stopped feeling empty. It started feeling like freedom. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel like I'd won. That's not how it works. There wasn't a scoreboard. But there was this quiet clarity that sank in like clean air after a storm. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was walking on eggshells in my own house. I didn't have to fake smiles at the dinner table or decode phone behavior or wonder if I was being too paranoid. I just existed, and that was enough. At first, Morgan tried legal pressure. I got an email from her lawyer. She's seeking compensation for emotional damages. Then another saying she wanted part of the retirement account. The next week, a retraction. Then silence. She didn't know what she wanted. Because the thing she really wanted wasn't money. It was control. And when she lost it, when I didn't take the bait, she spiraled. That's when the blackmail started. If you don't come back, one voicemail began. I'll tell everyone who you really are. It didn't even sting. Because that's all she had left. Empty threats and dramatics. There was no scandal to reveal, no secret past. Just her desperation dressed up like leverage. I didn't respond. I never would. Then came the letters. She started writing them by hand, mailing them, like it was 1992 and email hadn't been invented. At first they came weekly, then every few days. The handwriting was the same. Tight loops, a little rushed, like she couldn't get the words out fast enough. Some were angry, blaming me, saying I'd been distant for years, that I never really saw her, that she felt invisible. Others were soft, nostalgic. She wrote about our first trip to Oregon, the time we got caught in a storm and danced barefoot in a gas station parking lot, the way I used to read aloud from whatever book she left on the nightstand. That one made me pause, but not long enough to answer. The last one I read was short. Just a few lines. You didn't just leave. You took the light with you. I feel nothing now. That line stuck with me. Not because I missed her, but because I understood something she didn't. Some people don't lose you. They just return to the emptiness they never really left. Morgan had been gone long before that cabin trip. Long before the retreat. The cheating was just a symptom. The real loss happened quietly. Months ago, maybe even years, when she started turning away from me, little by little, and I kept telling myself we were fine. I wasn't blameless. I know that now. Maybe I got complacent. Maybe I stopped listening the way I used to. Marriage doesn't unravel overnight. It frays slowly. And by the time you see the tear, it's already deep. But Morgan didn't choose to talk about it. She chose something easier. Something that made her feel alive, even if it meant K*ling what we had. So I let her sit with the silence. Let her talk to herself through letters and voicemails. I didn't block her. I didn't return fire. I just let the distance do what it needed to do. Somewhere in there, I moved to a new town. Got a small place outside Denton, nothing fancy. White porch, quiet street. Bought a desk. Started freelancing full-time. It was strange how quickly life began to fill in the gaps once I stopped trying to hold the old one together. One morning, I realized I hadn't thought about her in days, and that's when I knew I was free. For years passed like smoke through fingers. Not fast, not slow, just gone. I remarried. Her name's Sarah. She came into my life gently, no fireworks, no drama. Just kindness. I never had to question where she was or who she loved. And that was everything. Toby, My son from a previous relationship was graduating high school. Sarah and I sat in the front row of the auditorium, proud, calm. The lights dimmed. Then I felt it. Someone watching me. I turned. At the back of the hall stood Morgan. She looked older. Not in a cruel way. Just worn. Her hair had lost its brightness. No makeup. No ring. She held a crumpled program in her hands like it was the last thing tethering her to this world. Alone. Our eyes met. And for a moment, neither of us said a thing. No words. Just time folding in on itself. I gave her a small nod. No malice. No forgiveness. Just finality. She nodded back. And that was it.